Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. I made a video a few days ago about, the promoters being in bed with each other and the lack of competition, or certainly the potential lack of competition, especially between Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn, who a couple of years ago were sworn enemies and are now best buds. And I mentioned sort of Ben Shalom as an outsider, and someone quite rightly in the comments section of that video said, look, Ben Shalom has got 4 fighters on the Bivol Beterbiev undercard. So he's not exactly not in with Turki Al Sheikh. And that's a very good point. It's a point that I accept. However, I am kind of warming to Ben a little bit. And I was thinking, why am I warming to him? I mean, I watch his interviews and he says the right thing, which they all do, don't they? So you can't really trust any of them. And I'm not saying I would trust Ben Shalom. But the fact is that Frank Warren appears to have just complete disdain for him. But Eddie Hearn really has a great deal of quite intense dislike, even though he tries to hide it. He had that little incident where he threatened to knock out Shalom or something. What the hell? I mean, this is real playground stuff, but he obviously lost his temper and said some stupid things. And Shalom was winding him up, or maybe just made a totally innocent remark that Hearn took the wrong way. I don't know what it was, but Hearn has a dislike for Ben Shalom. And that makes me think that Shalom must be doing something right. Because even though he has proven himself to be someone who, the kindest thing we can say about him is during his tenure at Sky is that he's been learning on the job. We all know about the purse bids that he pulled out of, and the Adam Azim, Dalton Smith thing, and of course he signed up Okoli and Boatsi from Matchroom, and that didn't go down well with Hearn. But suddenly we have, whereas when Hearn started out, we had, the grouchy old sod that was Frank Warren and the young gun who was Eddie Hearn. We now have Eddie sort of veering towards the grouchy old sod routine, that role. And Shalom is kind of making inroads into becoming the new guy on the block, because he has got his foot in the door with the whole Saudi money thing. Even though it was always going to take several years for him to sort of cut his teeth, find his feet, and just, do something constructive with, build a stable and get his slice of that promotional pie. It was always going to take a few years, because the guy came in, completely green and wet behind the ears. But he's gradually beginning to do that. Hence the reason he's got, 4 fighters on the Saudi card, but he's still considered to be on the periphery. He's definitely not bosom buddies with Hearn or Warren. And I kind of like that. Because, Eddie Hearn has said this about Bob Arum. Bob Arum's in his 90s and he's still going strong. And obviously doesn't do everything himself. He has a very good, very professional team and so on. But Hearn said, look, with Bob Arum, he'll call you a scum of the earth, or dare I say a scumbag, 1 minute, and then an hour later he'll be on the phone wanting to make a fight. He doesn't bear grudges. It's business. He has that rather sort of hard-nosed American attitude towards business. Whereas Hearn always gives the impression, I want to be everyone's friend. I want to work together with everyone. I want to do this. I want to do that. Well, it took you long enough to get with Frank Warren. Don't forget, Frank Warren was the one that initially suggested a sort of 5 versus 5 scenario that we saw, in Saudi. He suggested this 4 or 5 years ago, and Hearn didn't even meet him to discuss it. So Bob Arum is the type where, it doesn't matter. Business is business. I don't have to like you. And Hearn is now, the question is Hearn going to adopt this attitude? Now, he has towards Shalom, because they have fought. I mean, Tyler Denny stopped Felix Cash. That was Matchroom versus Boxer. And certainly in terms of public perception, I think Shalom is gaining ground. He's beginning to win that sort of the perception, and whether it's true or not, what goes on behind the scenes, I don't know. Probably you don't know, and most people, the vast majority of people, don't know. But the perception is that Shalom is coming across, even though he's a much younger man, probably about 15 years younger than Hearn, he's coming across as being the more mature, the more professional, which is quite a turnaround. Quite a turnaround. And again, I don't want you to misunderstand me. It's not that I would trust Shalom and I would trust Hearn or Warren or Aram or any of them. They're all promoters and they're all after one thing, and that's money. And if you're not of use to them in lining their pockets, forget it. You just they might be friendly to you, but they're not really going to do you any favors because it's all about money. They're businessmen, With Shalom, it's he says the right things. Of course, this will, proof of the pudding's in the eating. He's going to have to back things up. But he has always said, well, I'll work with anyone. And then, of course, he was putting out all sorts of purse bids, which rattled and really annoyed Hearn and Frank Smith. We'll see now that he's actually got it's a bit more of a level playing field now that he is in with the Riyadh season bonanza. We'll see if, now that Hearn he's not holding all the chips, we'll see if when Shalom goes over to Hearn and says, okay, I'd like to make this fight, I'd like to make that fight, we'll see what happens. Will Eddie have that Bob Arum attitude of, well, I don't like the guy, I think he's a sleazy whatever, but I'll work with you? Or will he have the old, what used to be Frank Warren's image, which is, I'm not working with this prick. Why the hell should I? I don't like the guy. But interesting thing. I mean, we need, again, I know I'm repeating what I said in the previous video, but we need competition. And a little bit of dislike is a good thing. It's a good thing because it creates that energy. I mean, you've even had, people like actors who work with directors, they don't necessarily like each other, but the friction adds to the creative process. Same with songwriters, two people who don't necessarily like each other, but they write songs together because there's a difference there, and you put the differences together and it creates some sort of buzz, some sort of, attritional vibe. So I kind of want to see what happens here. I want to see whether Shalom and Eddie, where their little relationship goes. But there's no doubt about it, Hearn does not like Shalom. And I have heard things through people who know people and so on, that Shalom is not particularly well liked either at Sky, or wasn't well liked a few years ago anyway at Sky. Whether he is now or not, I haven't heard, but not more recently. But within the industry, a lot of people don't particularly care for him. But then you would say the same look at Frank Warren. If you're the age I am, you'll remember Frank Warren trying to bust up the cartel. Mickey Duff, Jarvis Astaire, Mike Barrett, and all the rest. Lawless was in the mix, Terry Lawless. He was the new guy, so he was rocking the boat, and no one liked him. And then, of course, Hearn came along, and the old establishment, by this point Warren was most certainly the establishment, didn't like Eddie. Now Shalom's come along, and he's rocking the boat. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. But anyway, if you've got any thoughts, what do you think? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Leave your thoughts below. Let me know what you think, and I'll have a read. And of course, thank you for watching. I always appreciate you watching my videos. Please subscribe to the channel if you're new. If you could do that, it'd be a massive help to us. And yeah, hit the like button as well if you like the video, because they count the likes apparently. All right, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the rest of your day. I will speak to you soon, and bye for now.